All right, so a lot of us have been around the IT infrastructure in a corporation or uh, out and about, maybe online. We've consumed web services or maybe had ways that we log in to different things. And what we usually use are different vernacular that we see up on the overhead here. Really, let's start from the bottom and kind of enumerate up for this one. It's kind of interesting. Um, Really, one of the most important things that we'll see here for any of the, the change control within an organization or user access control, uh, if we can tightly couple that, is account management. Being able being able to have a team that is available, like a help desk, to help go and troubleshoot issues, is super important. A lot of times now, unlike 20 years ago, um, a lot of times you can create a user account on the fly, and you don't need anybody to help you with that. And usually that's the way it is. But uh, across the board, some of these can be very intuitive, and it starts up here with password synchronization. This is a concept that some people may have a little bit of a difficulty with. And usually what we see is, we talked a little bit about those directory services before, and let's say that you're hosting your environment in a Windows environment, like 80% of the world does. So you're using this thing called Active Directory. And Active Directory, inside of it, has the phone book essentially for that organization. You can go and look up a bunch of different things, but it also will have a way that you can enable, disable user accounts, create email accounts, and store or reset the passwords. And if inside of an organization, let's just say here that you have two apps here. So here's app A and app B. Okay. Inside your organization, both of them are using Active Directory for authentication. So if somebody types in user ID and password for authentication to get into B, to get into A, and then it goes and looks it up in Active Directory, and lickety split allows that person access to that. Well, down here you have app C, app D, and app E. Okay, so C, D, and E. Well, it's quite interesting because these may or may not, in this particular case, we're just going to say they do not use password synchronization, right? So they don't use the Active Directory component as a central way to log on to everything. Well, now we got a problem because 60 days out, and that's supposed to be 60, right? We'll just go like that. 60 days out, your password, you're going to get a notice. You're going to say, hey, you need to reset your password for both of these. Okay, well, it gives you a nice little GUI to put in your user ID and your password, and then it resets. Well, what it'll do is it'll go back to Active Directory and actually reset the password, and then for these two, A and B, they'll be synchronized. Well, down here, immediately on day 60, now we got a problem, right? C, D, and E probably have the different passwords than A and B do now. And now you have to figure out a way to manage your passwords. And this is a big problem within organizations. I know I was doing, working on a project for NASA, and NASA, on the project that I was working on, they had over 600 applications that were south of this line right here that did not use a central directory server to be able to authenticate. So that meant that we had to link up each one of these to a directory server to be able to get this thing for essentially password synchronization, as well as a centralized account management, because each one of these down here had its own way to create user IDs and passwords, since it wasn't up here with Active Directory. And it ends up being a big problem for massive organizations that they need people like you guys to come and help solve those issues. Well, when it is fully integrated into a central repository with user IDs and passwords like Active Directory or any Oracle suite of tools that maybe uses identity management, then we have this thing called single sign-on. And essentially, single sign-on, you sign on one time, and then essentially during, as long as your session is active while you're on the network, then any of these guys down here that are down here, any of these guys, A, B, C, D, and E, will not require you to log into them. So there's essentially a token that is that has an expiry, that as long as you're active, you have an active session, it doesn't, your laptop or your desktop doesn't lock out, or you don't go away for lunch. As long as it's an active session, then it will automatically go through and authenticate you without you doing anything. And that is the goal for the organizations, is to try to do that. And a lot of them cannot get anywhere close to having that fully automated. Usually you'll hear another term used instead of single sign-on. It's reduced sign-on. But for the purposes of your exam, you definitely need to know what single sign-on is, how passwords get synchronized, and account management. These other two here that I have listed, self-service and assisted password reset, these are kind of self-explanatory in my opinion here. The self-service usually allows you to go in and put some cognitive things in, like type in your mother's maiden name. A lot of companies have moved away from asking that question, and rather they're going towards what's your favorite movie of all time, or what was your first school that you went to, or hey, what's your favorite color, what was your first pet's name, or something besides your mother's maiden name, because a lot of times people don't like giving up their mother's maiden name, but also that's if that was compromised, that'd be a pretty significant thing to be compromised as well. And then an assisted password reset is kind of an interesting thing, that, hey, you know what, I can't reset my password, I got to call up the help desk. And recently, I know in our area here, WOW, who used to be Knology, they actually started charging $5 a phone call. So if you actually need somebody on technical support and you can't go to their frequently asked questions, now they're going to charge you $5. And the first time that I called them up, I was just like, I don't want to pay $5 to get somebody who probably can't troubleshoot any better than I can. And it really made me think twice about whether or not I need somebody's help. So I was able to, I haven't called them since, and I was able to figure it out on my own. But that's really what an assisted password reset is. You need to call somebody, there's an issue, and you need to maybe unlock the account because they tried to log in with the wrong password too many times, or something goofy is going on and it's an anomaly, so you need the help. And for that particular purposes, it's pretty good to be able to have somebody, and usually you need help. So that's really what in password management components with account management, that's really what this is about.